Welcome to Avoca. Let's take a story trail and discover its art and historic buildings. Your story trail can be done by driving or by walking, roughly about 2 to 3 hours overall, or a combination of both driving and walking. Art and architecture reflect the soul and lived history of a location. Avoca is rich and abundant in both. Our story trail will focus on art and historic buildings with interesting stories to tell. Your story trail will take 2 to 3 hours and the distance is about 6 kilometres. Walking is flat and driving is easy. Your story trail includes Barking Owl Silo Art, Contemplation Memorial, Gallery 127, Avoca Railway Station, Avoca National and Public Schools, Ice Pump, churches, Bank of Victoria, Old Police Precinct, Watford House, High Street to Duke Street northbound and High Street to Bridport Street southbound. Story trails are best experienced using mobile devices with headsets. They are free to download and share. Mobile phone users should use and enable auto-rotate to allow landscape viewing. We will guide you to each story point along the trail. When you hear the church bell ring, pause the video. Take a look around. Then play for the next story point. Directions to your first story point. Proceed north along the main or high street. As the road converges into one, look for and follow the silo art sign. This will take you right into North Street. Veer left into Homebush Road. Cross over the railway crossing. Turn right into Station Street. The Barking Owl Silo can't be missed. Pause the video. Carefully park and take some photos. Play the video to learn more. Work on the Avoca Silo began in 2021 by artist Jimmy Buscone. The endangered barking owl is native to the Pyrenees Ranges. Listen carefully, you can hear its bark. Avoca Community Arts and Gardens, who commissioned the design, hope to build awareness about the rare and endangered species. The opposite side of the silo will feature the vulnerable brush-tailed baskerville. The newly painted silo will also focus a nighttime interactive element not previously seen on the Australian Silo Art Trail. Glow-in-the-dark strontium paint will be used to highlight elements of the design to provide an interactive experience. The front surface of the silo will be used as a projection screen for movies, film festivals and video art, with the land in front of the silo landscaped for people to visit with chairs and picnic lawn for these events. Directions to story points 2 to 4. Return to Homebush Road and turn left. Once over the rail crossing, turn left into Boyce Street. Take the next left into York Street for 500 metres. Park in the Art Railway Station. Looking west towards the silo, you will see a contemplation garden area. Pause this video, walk over and respect. Play the video to learn more. In 1918, citizens of Avoca gathered on the corner of High Street and North Street to plant the first of many elm and gum trees that would form an avenue of honour connecting with the railway station. It was intended that the avenue would not only provide shade for passengers walking to and from the town, but be an ever-present reminder of the sacrifices brave soldiers made during the Great War. Today there are only a few trees remaining. Sit and take time to contemplate and appreciate the significance of the memorial, as well as taking in the ever-present and ever-changing view of the Pyrenees in the background. The recently restored Avoca Railway Station offers an ideal setting for local and regional artists to exhibit their creativity. Managed by Avoca Arts and Garden Group, the gallery also has a curated collection of historical photos and models. Workshops and artist studio spaces are also available. Visit avoca.vic.au for the current feature artist and exhibition. Opened in 1874 as a part of the through line between Maryborough and Ararat, the line has been closed and reopened several times. Today it is used for freight trains. Interestingly, it is one of the few stations built exactly 127 rail miles from Melbourne. A 127 rail mile post is clearly visible on the platform. For many years it was a locomotive turnaround point. Before leaving the car park, walk west for 100 metres and be adjacent to the silo. A large iron ball in the ground is what remains of the pivot point, enabling locomotives to return to Maryborough. Directions to Story Point 5. From the railway station, turn right into York Street and proceed west to North Street. Turn left into Barnett Street. On your left you will see an impressive building. This is the Avoca Primary School. Park safely. Pause the video to take a closer look. Play to learn more. Built in 1878 and designed by Henry Bastow, it was the second state school in Victoria built to this design. The distinctive design became a template for future Victorian schools. The steeply pitched slate roof has a large tip section with intersecting gables for balance and symmetry. The imposing veranda shows thought for student comfort and climate conditions. Behind you is the site of the first school, Avoca National School, 1857. Directions to Story Point 6. From Avoca Primary School, do a U-turn. Turn left into North Street. Turn left into Rutherford Street. Almost immediately on your right you will see an industrial engine. Park safely. Pause the video to take a closer look. Play to learn more. It is industrial art. This ammonia compressor was used to supply the town with ice. It is particularly associated with the rabbit plagues of the 1950s. The freezing works had the capacity to freeze 6,000 rabbits. Over $150,000 was paid to local sportsmen to catch rabbits. Directions to Story Point 7. Continue south along Rutherford Street. Go slowly. There are 3 prominent churches. Stop and explore them if you have a specific interest in churches. Stop at the Avoca Uniting Church, 104 Rutherford Street. Pause the video to take a closer look. Then play to learn more. The complex consists of a brick church built in 1867, a Sunday school hall 1870 and a parsonage 1871. Formerly it was a Methodist church and the first church to be built in Avoca in 1854. Directions to Story Point 8. Continue south along Rutherford Street. At the bottom of Rutherford Street, turn right and park safely immediately on the left. On the corner of Bridport and High Street you will see an expansive house or building. This was Avoca's first bank. Pause the video to take a closer look. Play to learn more. Bank of Victoria 1854. As the first bank in Avoca, its design reflects the optimism of the period. Coinciding with the greater wealth from the gold rush, buildings began to be built with a greater emphasis on ornamentation and design. Built in the early Victorian era, there was a greater use of decorative brickwork. You would have already noticed the popularity of red bricks in previous buildings. While verandas were still made from timber, there was a shift towards the use of cast iron lacework, both on the exterior facade as well as the fencing, to create decorative appearance. Directions to Story Point 9. From the Bank of Victoria, turn left into the main street. In about 190 metres, turn right into Davey Street. Proceed with care across the median strip. Look for the iron silhouette of bullocks and dray on your right. Be careful of the oncoming traffic to your left. Cross over and take the second sand driveway to the left. Park safely. Pause and then play to learn more. The former police precinct in 1853 was originally known as the Camp, with some 50 mounted troopers encamped to administer law and order. The site had barracks, treasurer, jail, courthouse, and in 1859 a new police station and residence was built. Pause and have a good look at the residence, then play. Wander over to the Bluestone Jail. Initially, prisoners were held in a log jail. Escapes occurred regularly. In 1867, a new, very secure bluestone lockup was built. Do you think you could escape? Pause, have a good look around, and then play. In 1860, built to safely store explosives for gold mining, special safety precautions had to be observed on entry. Outer clothing and shoes had to be removed, special clothes had to be put on, and pockets had to be emptied. To see this building, walk west along Davy Street into Napier Street. Pause, and then play to resume. On leaving the former police precinct and turning left into High Street, at 138 High Street, built in the revival style, the Avoca Courthouse is one of the earliest surviving courthouses in Victoria. Significant for its long period of operation spanning 120 years, 1859 to 1979. The old courthouse is now home to the Avoca Historical Society. Pause and then play to resume. Directions to story point 10. Return to the main street, turn left. Note the courthouse to your left at 138 High Street. Proceed to Bridport Street, Pyrenees Highway, and turn left. Turn right into Dundas Street. At number 16 is a beautifully restored, prefabricated double-storey house. Park safely. Pause the video to take a closer look. Play to learn more. Watford House. The sudden influx of people to the town resulted in an acute accommodation shortage. Sent from Hamburg in numbered planks, Watford House 1856 was shipped to Geelong, then transported across Victoria and assembled in the main street as accommodation for the Avoca Hotel. See the insert top right. It was sold 20 years later and rolled down the hill to its current site. Directions to story point 11 plus. Return to the main street. Turn left at Gallup's petrol station. The Union Hotel once occupied this site. Avoca had 11 hotels in its heyday. At number 103 High Street, Sheer Delights Bakery, park safely. At this point in your trail, you could opt to complete the trail as a walking trail. Look for the upcoming buildings northward bound on High Street. Pause the video. Play to resume. High Street northbound, 103 to 105 High Street, Macareth's. The shops were associated with the early winemaking in the region. It served as a wine depot after Edward Macareth was granted a colonial wine licence in 1898. Macareth was one of 9 winemakers in the Shire, and his wines were distributed all over Victoria. In later years, the shop became famous for electrical and wireless repair, especially aluminium welding for farm spotlights. 111 High Street, Herlihy. This double-storey building forms part of a prominent 19th century commercial precinct, along with the Avoca Hotel, National Bank and News Agency. Over the years it has been a grocery store, drapers, household goods, millinery and barbershop. The building retains many of its original features. Second-storey veranda, balustrades and fretwork frieze are a feature. 115 to 117 High Street, Avoca Hotel. Built within 2 years of Avoca's establishment in 1854, it is considered to be one of the most beautiful hotels in Australia, with its high decorative style. With over 100,000 bricks, it reflects the wealth of the gold rush era. At times it also served Avoca with a doctor and dentist consulting rooms, and it was favoured by Cobb & Co. 119 High Street, Savings Bank of Victoria, 1912. The bank is said to have been built on the site of an early grave of an unknown timber worker who suffered an accident in the Pyrenees Ranges. It was taken over by the Commercial Bank, then the National Bank. Cambridge Street West, Cobb & Co. Staging Point. Cobb & Co. was set up in Melbourne in Victoria in 1853 with the intention of servicing the Victorian goldfields. It quickly developed to become the most successful company of its kind during the 19th century, pioneering transport routes, delivering mail, gold and passengers throughout the country, and contributing greatly to the social growth and expansion of pastoral settlement across Australia. 119 High Street, National Bank, 1912, is an example of high Victorian commercial buildings in the classical revival style of an Italian palazzo. Designed to be both a bank and a residence, it closed in 2002. 127 High Street features a wide shop front, unusual for its time. 133 High Street, Layla's Prescription Depot, 1854. Before modern pharmaceuticals, apothecaries made medicines for physicians, surgeons and patients. Surprisingly, the pharmacy also cultivated nursery plants and seeds. Layla's Pharmacy is the oldest continuously operating pharmacy in Victoria. It is closely associated with William Goodshaw, a prominent citizen in town affairs. In 1899, it was owned by A.G. Laylaw, who was prominent in the town's sporting life. He added tooth extractions and false teeth services to the depot's many services. The Avoca War Memorial was built by public subscription and unveiled in November 1921. Inscribed on 4 granite tablets are the names of 137 officers and men, 29 of whom were killed in action. Beside the memorial is a pine tree grown from the seed of the lone pine on the Gallipoli Peninsula that witnessed the ferocious fighting between Anzac and Turkish forces. In 1915, over 8,600 soldiers on both sides were dead or wounded. Directions to story points 12 plus. Cross over to the centre medium strip. At number 172 High Street is the IGA store. This is the beginning point for the southbound story points. Pause the video and take a closer look, then play to learn more. At 172 High Street, Edmund Snell established a Welcome Mart in 1863. Today it is an IGA general store. Snell sold and rebought the business several times. He was very active in shire politics, being the mayor in 1865. He also invested heavily in local mining ventures. At 160 High Street, the news agency 1887 to 1890, it was operated continuously for over 100 years. It is part of a small group of double-storey shops in Avoca. 140 to 138 High Street, the Victoria Hotel. Dating from the 1850s, it is an example of grand 19th century hostelry. It formed the focal point for the community, boasting a theatre room as well as offering stabling, meeting rooms and high entertainment. Many overseas artists and Melbourne theatre groups performed here. A visitor described it in 1869. It is altogether the finest up-country place of its kind I have ever seen. 130 High Street, Albion House, 1868. It was a drapery store for over 130 years and was the leading dressmaking, millinery and gentlemen's department store in the region. 124 High Street, the Avoca Post Office, 1872, is a single-storey red brick building with intersecting hip and gable, slate roof, very similar to the Avoca Primary School and typical of mid-Victorian era public housing architecture. Next to the post office is a former mechanic's garage. It later became a bus depot. Note the pressed metal sheeting. 122 High Street, Avoca Knitting Mill, one of the few factories to operate in the Shire in the 20th century. It employed 32 local women making wool and cotton underwear. Today it is the Pyrenees Shire Information Centre. 118 to 116 High Street, the Albion Hotel, 1868. It had accommodation, billiard room, bathrooms, free stabling and stalls for farmers' horses. A coach to Lexden left from the Albion. It closed in 1937. 114 High Street, former State Savings Bank, 1924. This substantial modern building is derived from the Romanesque Art Nouveau style. 112 High Street, the Holland Drapery, 1866, expresses the post-Gold Rush prosperity era. Initially it was a hay and corn store servicing the police camp nearby. Later it became a wine depot for the Macareth family. High Street in the 1930s, looking north from where the public toilets are today. This is the front page of the first edition of the Avoca Mail and Pyrenees District Advertiser, dated Friday, December 11, 1863. Not surprisingly, it reveals a fascination with the 4 B's. Booze, in terms of the hotels, boots, banks, and butchers. Happy Trails. Avoca has one of the widest main streets in Australia. This was to enable large team bullock drays transporting wheat, wool and timber to turn around easily. We hope you have enjoyed the Avoca Art and Historic Buildings story trail. Has your curiosity been rewarded? Feel free to share this story trail with friends. Happy trails! The Avoca Art and Historic Buildings Story Trail is an initiative of Advance Avoca. It is produced by Geotourism, and more story trails can be found at www.avoca.vic.au.